Hey, welcome back, Star Wars Nuts. This is the Holocron Chronicles over on the Secret Friends Unite podcast network. This is episode 134. 123 was a while back. I thought, 134 sounds like nothing at all. I don't know. You know what? It's Sunday. I'm having some kind of a brain aneurysm. But anyway, it's Charlie, your Jedi guy here in Grand Rapids, joined by Jedi guy number 2, or maybe he's number 1. I don't know. I guess you'd have to decide who's got more juice in the Star Wars world here in Grand Rapids. But this is Peter Stein. So yeah, we are we're back again. Got a great show for you as usual. We're jumping into 5 and 6 of MAUL Shadow Lord. Do keep in mind, obviously, all episodes are now available, but we decided for the sake of not running through it by let's cover all 10 episodes in one of our episodes and have it be 9 hours long. We thought we would stretch it out a bit, particularly since, and I didn't include this in the news, but we can kind of talk about it off the cuff. We did get an announcement this week about the second and what I'm assuming is final season of Ahsoka and its release date, and the really massive disappointment I know that I have over that news. So we will kind of talk about that without the we'll talk about it off the cuff unless we have a link we want to go to. But yeah, and then we're going to jump into getting you ready for the Mandalorian and Grogu. Why is that necessary? I don't know. Maybe you're not a nerd like Peter and I that have watched seasons 1, 2, and 3 of The Mandalorian 50 times each, with the exception of season 3. And we'll get to that in a while. But we'll run through some highline, low line, some hopes and fears for the upcoming film. And then a little box office prediction, because Peter is a kind of a non-participating member of our summer movie wager that was a tradition between John and Todd Oxford and myself, and now John and I are continuing it now that Todd's kind of out of the picture. But I said to Peter, throw your hat in the ring just for bragging rights and kind of see where you land, just out of curiosity, since it's a specifically scored program. It's still out there,
in the Outer Rim.
Yeah, where in the Outer Rim? I would say it's still out there, and I would say, just to be a non-participator, it's not too late to jump in because we're only in the middle of May. It's a little fudge factor, but yeah, that game was detailed pretty extensively in a recent episode of Secret Friends Unite, Oops All Thunderdome, which is our topic-based show, when John and I kicked that off a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, let's get into the show after I toss some love and affection to the wonderful people in our Secret Friends Unite Patreon over at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, where you, of course, get a free week of our services for free. Listen to several hundred hours of content ranging from all kinds of different stuff, even before Peter and I took things over. So we're going back over 10 years of great stuff, including a lot of exclusive content, including a great show that Peter and I do called The Facts of Geek Life, where we've been covering Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica. We're finally getting to the end after 3 years. We definitely took our time because we included other shows in there as well. All of our shows come out early. This one is the earliest one, generally comes out on a Sunday on the Patreon, where the rest of the world gets it on a Wednesday. And a special channel for our friends over on the Discord, who are just Patreons. As I said, the first week is for free. You can even just be a free member. We had a couple of that joined us recently. Now I don't have it in front of me, so I feel bad. But I hope you're listening, and thanks for joining us. But if you elect to stay on board, your first month can be 50% off, and then you stick around for as little as $2 a month. My goodness, if nothing else, it's a way to say that, hey, we support you guys in being a quasi small business, as it were, or just some serious enthusiasts of pop culture content, and you like what we do, which we consider it to be an enormous compliment. So it'd be absolutely great. Again, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. And we'd love to see you there. All right. So unofficially prepared for, we now know that Ahsoka, I'm trying to type this in here I'm not even going to bother. I typed the word anoush for some reason in the flow. That's not a word that applies to this, but we got Ahsoka season 1 in the summer of 2023. Now we are recording this in what is now the late spring of 2026. And season 2, which has been completed in production for what I would say nearly a year, if not more, was announced at, I believe, a Disney upfront within this last week. We will see it in early 2027. And I got to tell you, wow, that's a big fail by Disney. I mean, now you're looking at 3.5 years between seasons. I know it happens in other places. I mean, Peter, put on your hat of contemplation, why the delay? Why do you think?
I'm not entirely like, if I were to speculate, which is basically
Please.
what we're doing here.
Yeah.
I think that some of it has to do with they're just kind of waiting to see how things pan out with Mandalorian and Grogu, to see what if it's like feasible to continue to keep going, and if there's like things that they need to cut out of the season that would lead to further story beats that may not be that they can't follow anymore because of
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
So I think that's probably what they're doing, is trying to do like, I don't know what the right term is, but it's like loss prevention.
Right.
We don't want any more like loose ends that could just be kind of hanging out there that then fans can be like, well, why didn't you follow up on this? Well, because everyone hated it.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but like,
Right.
that's the thing that I can think of why you would want to wait, other
Yeah.
than from the sound of it with Mandalorian and Grogu, particularly, it was originally going to be a season 4 of Mandalorian. And so there were bits and pieces of the Ahsoka storyline with Thrawn and some of the New Republic stuff that just, you can't slam into a 2.5 hour film if you're dealing with 12 hours of television.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So
right.
like trying to slam that into 2.5 hours is just a little rough. So they cut all of that stuff out. And so maybe it's because they were trying to like take all of that footage if they had filmed it. I'm not entirely sure if they did. Probably it was written, but like take all of that stuff and try to mush it all together and put it back into Ahsoka to try to make it all work. So either they're cutting things out that they don't think are going to make it, or it's like they had all of this content that was ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we edit this in a way that makes sense? And it might just be that it's taken this long to try to figure that out, because editing can be a monster. It really can.
And the thing is, let's face it, the model of approaching Star Wars on television has not been, and Marvel is just as guilty. It's been, let's do a lot of planning. And now Marvel kind of broke that with Daredevil Born Again seasons 1 and 2, because they started it, they looked at it, they said, this is not vibing. So they trashed it and started over, which is crazy. Star Wars did that with Solo. But I don't know that I agree that whatever, we don't really know what wasn't working and whatever it is. But let's face it, with Star Wars on TV, there have been some very notable misses that everybody hates. You and I were talking, we were at Motor City Comic Con yesterday, so we had that 2-hour drive back and forth each way. So we had a lot of time to catch up and have our semi-annual board meeting to talk about the show. And we were talking about some of the big misses that Marvel has done. Secret Invasion was a big miss. The Punisher, One More Kill, which I'll get into talking about a recording later today with Kurt to talk about, I didn't care for, but is turning out to be widely regarded. So we won't get too much into that. But kind of the same thing with Star Wars. I've not met many people that don't feel that The Acolyte wasn't a big miss. But Skeleton Crew, I even want to call it Skeleton Crew or Skeleton Key. It's definitely Skeleton Crew, right?
Yes. Yeah. Skeleton Crew.
I always called it the wrong thing when we were recording on it. Was a big hit with nearly everyone I talked to. But Book of Boba Fett, huge mess for almost everybody that I talked to.
I liked it, but I'm one of the few.
You see what I mean? So, it boils down to kind of one of two things. A, entertainment is entertainment, and shut your gob. Nobody really cares what you think. And there is something to be said for erring on the side of caution and maybe using a little bit of prevention and waiting and fine-tuning and tweaking. So that being said, a 3.5-year wait to see the second season might really bear fruit, because maybe they did catch something that didn't work. Maybe they found a way to tighten up the narrative, maybe they are playing it safe in a way that, and it was one of the recap videos I was watching for something that we're talking about today, simply said, well, really all of Star Wars as a franchise from the decision makers are really holding their collective breath to see how Mandalorian and Grogu does in the theater. Because if it's a big hit and people are receptive to it, things march on. If for some reason it's not, going back to the drawing board, because it's maybe it's finally the wake up, like they had with these Star Wars stories. We had Rogue One, the first Star Wars story,
Mhm.
universally beloved. Solo comes along, 50-50, maybe less. And while it still did some decent box office, the return on investment, because it was a film that was made twice, and you and I have an upcoming segment where we're going to really dig into that movie. I watched it recently and remembered how much I liked it. It was my May the 4th movie. Which I probably mentioned last time we recorded. It's by Star Wars standards, it was a failure, because the money wasn't there. So yeah, we will know more certainly, within the next 15 to 30 days, exactly what, if Mando and Grogu has a good, obviously, opening performance. We're going to talk about that in a bit, and that if it has
another thing about Ahsoka after that, maybe they'll push it up. I don't know. It depends.
They do tend to move things around, but that's a pretty big statement to make. So yeah, I'm curious to follow. We'll continue to talk about it. So apologies for not having more hard facts. We're kind of talking about it off the cuff, but it seems to me that it's a decision that could be altered as time goes by. So we will find out. So all right, well, let's move in to talking about MAUL. Shadow Lord. We're talking about episodes 5 and 6. Again, all available now on Disney Plus. We covered the premise of the series, obviously, over the last two and three of our episodes. There's no doubt that Peter and I are not high on it, but we're ending up on, again, the opposite spectrum, where it's extremely highly well rated right now, I think, on both Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb by the scores, but it's not really clicking with us. And again, Peter, I hate to speak for you, but I'm just judging on what we've talked about.
Yeah.
Will these episodes turn things around for us? But that's what we're going to find out. So let me jump in. I will read. Now I'm jog my memory. Do we talk about these as a glob, or do we talk about these one by one? I think we do one by one.
Last time we did one by one.
Okay, we'll do that.
I think that still tracks. I don't know if that'll follow with the finale.
Very true.
But with these two, it's still separate.
Yeah, exactly correct. All right, so episode 5 is Inquisition. Saul Ruiz and Tatiana Drury-Carvin handling the writing, with the direction by Jennifer Corbett. Am I getting those backwards? Writing and directing. I think the director is the second one. I always forget because these are always the same. But then I cut the header off it, so I forget.
Each one is. Wikipedia is not consistent, so
absolutely not. So anyway, all right, quickie summary of the episode, and then we'll give some notes. Imperial forces led by Lieutenant Blake. Oh man, his face looked like 50 miles of bad road, doesn't it? He was
it was one of those first ones of like, my goodness.
He was really grody. I don't know if that's teenage acne or if he got hit in the face by a bus. And the Jedi hunting Inquisitor Merrick, who we know from Ahsoka season 1 and will henceforth be referred to in my notes and in the title of this episode potentially as the fart gas Inquisitor, or just fart gas, because that's what happened to him when he died. Occupied Janik City, cutting off Devin and Daki as they attempt to escape. Despite the protests of his second in command, Rook Cast, Maul decides to stay in hopes of making Devin his apprentice. He's hooked on a feeling. Lawson is questioned by Merrick and claims he first encountered Maul during the firefight. Riley contacts his mother, Drea. Oh, what a bitch. Who works for the Empire and tells Riley to cooperate. Oh, shit. That's not good. Merrick investigates the scene of the firefight and sees evidence of Maul's duel with Devin and Daki. Blake, or Bha-lah-khe, if you prefer, from KFC. That's all I was thinking about. Bha-lah-khe allows Lawson to go home, where he finds Devin and Daki seeking refuge in his fucking apartment with his son. Ooh, that's a bad way to end that episode.
Yeah.
All right.
That was quite the ending of the episode.
Yeah. Let's talk some notes. First shot, you get the beauty of, I always love it, and this is a big difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. Oh, note the time, 14 minutes before I mentioned Star Trek.
14 minutes.
That we get ships that are able to go in Atmo. So you have a Star Destroyer, early blended. I'm trying to picture it now, if it looks a lot like a Venator class or if it looks more like a regular.
No, this is an Imperial class Star Destroyer, but it's a Type 1.
Yeah, so. But yeah, it's a Type 1 because, again, that was my note. Where do we peg time frame post Revenge of the Sith?
Well, now that we've seen the troopers, this is taking place shortly after Bad Batch Season 3.
Oh, okay. Which we knew took place over kind of real time-ish, like 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, 2 to 3 years after Revenge of the Sith.
Okay. Gotcha.
So
because,
it's somewhere in there.
The thing that always cracks me up is obviously they're using this to establish some dramatic tension. But when the Star Destroyer is coming in and that nonstop awooga noise is going off, I'm like, oh, thank God they're playing that, because I don't know anybody would have noticed this big this, because casting this like miles long shadow as it's coming in, ooga, and people are like, oh, I wonder what the hell's going on,
Gee, I wonder if that's
that
like
was
the mailman or the Wells Fargo wagon. No,
yeah, exactly.
Star Destroyer.
That's all state stand, which we almost get one of these out of Dennis Haysbert. I swear the speech he's making later on, I just needed to end with that's all state stand, because he's saying something very similar about that. But anyway, let me have some of your thoughts.
Yeah, so the last episode, I think we got we knew that the Inquisitors were maybe on the way.
Right.
But this one was when we finally got Marok, which is interesting because we haven't really heard this guy talk much, like when he appeared in Ahsoka. And so we get a new voice and all of that. The interesting thing here is that we see Lawson, remember in the last couple episodes, Lawson's been pretty adamant about not wanting the Empire here. Right. Which, makes sense. But
everybody else is like, well, I don't really see what the problem is.
But then once the Empire shows up, they kind of just unilaterally take control of everything and start being a police state, which I understand, but I'm not 100% sure makes sense.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean, in the sense that
it happens pretty quickly.
Well, it happens pretty quickly, but in the context of the Empire, we know that the Empire is oppressive and all that, space Nazis, all that. But for something that big and that evil to be in charge for that long, you don't always come in hot and heavy right at the beginning. You come in we're the saviors and we're going to help you.
Like the Cardassians.
Yeah.
There's your second Star Trek reference.
Yeah, if you're a Trekker, you come in as the sympathetic, the help, and then you slowly kind of
take shit over,
take stuff over, and I'll just take care of this, and then you won't have to deal with it, and then lo and behold, you're now.
Well, I thought of and maybe I'm screwing up the name of it, but in Andor, is it Gorham? What was the name of the planet?
Yeah, the Gorman,
Gorman. Thank you. Yeah. I was thinking of and I wrote Gorn in my notes. I'm like, no, that's something very different. But it was, and it wasn't quite so. It was a little happy slappy, but I mean, the whole thing about the Gorman in Andor was about they needed the excretions of a bug or something like that to build something or other for the Death Star, and so they ruined this whole planet, and then they just ended up killing the people when the people.
Yeah, but that one also did show. Not as nuanced as I would have liked, but it did show kind of that gradual takeover, whereas this was just instantaneous. And so I get that we can be a little bit simplistic when it comes to this sort of thing just because convenience of time,
right?
But it just felt a little abrupt and kind of, it was just by the way, the Empire is evil. We as the audience already know that. We don't necessarily need that to be thrown right in our face. Because Lieutenant Bha-lah-khe is now you got me saying it. Lieutenant Blake is just a complete douche nozzle right from the beginning.
Well, and they come right in and Lawson's sitting there chatting with his boss, Captain so and so, or whatever, and she's like, "Well, I just wonder if this is all going to be working out." And they're like, "Oh, we got to take you back into interrogation." And then 5 minutes later, they come for Lawson, and then they leave him with the extreme impression that they've killed her off. And I'm like,
okay, it's a little she wasn't even at fault for any of this.
Well, you don't even know how that conversation went. They're like, well, you did a pew. Did they shoot her in the room or just take her out back and take her out behind the virtual
dumpster?
Yeah, the purple dumpster. Here we go, thunk. So you're right. They're a little too evil.
Yeah, they're a little bit too snidely whiplash right away. And it's just again, I get it. It's the convenience of plot timing, but it's just, and I know I've beat this drum a lot with this era of stories, particularly for in between 3 and 4.
Right.
It's just, I like to, it feels like there needs to be more nuance to explain why the Empire was able to get away with what they could.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It'd be a little bit more Okay. Oh yeah, I wrote "We must remain hopeful," and I'm like, no, that's a different note. Because then, so I was very much, when Lawson's son calls his mom, it's like, oh God, she's just like, it'll be cool, just cooperate, blah blah. It's like, oh God, that's horrible. And she's on Coruscant too,
but
so
the thing
she's
is,
all the way into the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and I like that they have that. I think it's not handled as well as it could be. Just similar to like Andor with Mon Mothma and her husband. Like they like having this like division between like an Imperial and a rebel sympathizer in a family, and try to pit them against each other. It just doesn't always work well. This one has the potential, but I think, just to piggyback again, because I like beating this drum, I guess. But like if the Imperials had come in not so hot and heavy, it would have made this line make more sense.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And it would have made it like him being like concerned but not afraid would have made this line make more sense. Whereas if he's afraid and his mom actually does care for him, she would be a lot more concerned, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Like obviously, yes, she's drank the Kool-Aid and da 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 da.
Yeah.
But the way that they're trying to portray it, where like Riley still has like this strong connection to her, it feels like there should be it feels like we just had the Empire come in too strong. For that.
Easy there, first date.
Yeah.
Take it easy now. We get a couple of, and this I can actually appreciate. We get a couple of, and I talk about the buddy cop speech all the time. Two characters are having a meaningful emotional exchange. Like, we finally said some things we need to say, and then one of them is dead. So I feel like Dennis Haysbert's character, who I'm just going to call Dennis Haysbert, because that's easier for me, does that more than once, talking to irate our heroine, because our character is Devin. See, I'm bad with names with this stuff. I feel bad about that. I feel like he does it more than once. We have a total eye roll moment that I know and I'll talk about this in my thoughts about the Mandalorian and Grogu later. But it's one of these fan service moments that's so far over the top, and it makes me sick. There's people that enjoy it, but when he's standing talking to the TK, and he's like, "You've already seen our identification," and the guy goes, "I've already seen your identification," and I'm like, "Oh." No, you didn't just. Now, I do like the reversal of that is the other, like his buddy walks over and says, "Why don't you just let them go by without seeing their identification?" "Oh, I already saw there." And he looks at his pad and there's nothing. He's like, "Go get them." So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I did like how it was like, wait a minute.
But the way they teed that up with that callback, like I said, I'm not going to go on this like, well, Peter and I are more sophisticated intakers of media and blah blah blah, and that's why we didn't let you know. No, I'm not gonna.
When I write stuff, I absolutely do the low hanging fruit callbacks myself. Like I'm not gonna beat anybody up about that.
I mean, I get it, and if it was happening less often, maybe so. I do absolutely love the end. It's like when Lawson comes back to his apartment, and there's after they have the big escape sequence. Set piece of them escaping, that they then show up at his apartment, and that's a good end to this. So we get into episode 6, unless you have other thoughts. Getting into episode 6,
I think that this one kept the tension going pretty well. Like this one held it held like this part of the story in good suspension, where you're just like, what's going on, what's going to happen,
not the suspension
all
of
of that. Not the suspension of disbelief. But the weird thing is, this episode barely has any MAUL in it.
Right, it was very much a Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, this was an episode.
Like, showed up.
This is, and I'll say a little bit when we're done talking about episode 6, I guess. But like this episode was focused on everybody else more than MAUL, and this held the story. The story was a little tighter. I don't know because of that, but just it did feel a little bit tighter because it was focusing on characters that there seems to be a little bit more investment in, if that makes sense. But I'll have some thoughts on that when we're done with episode 6.
Yes.
So
very good. All right, chapter 6, Night of the Hunted. Stuart Lee handling the writing or the directing. Oh my God. Stuart Lee and Christopher Yost. I don't know why is throwing me for a ride. Anyway, Fart Gas Guy appears at Lawson's apartment and duels with Taki and Devin. Kind of saw that coming. The pair steal an Imperial gunship and escape with Lawson and Riley. Oh, man! But are chased through the city by other gunships and are shot down. Loved it.
That was a great scene.
Great set pieces. I think that they're really engaging with that, and I like that. Lawson takes them out to meet Sol and asks for help escaping the planet. Sol is Pamela Adlon's character, I think, from a couple episodes back.
Yep.
Because Pamela Adlon's daughter is the what's that?
She feels very much like a character from Mass Effect, which I think I've mentioned before.
She also she's identified as a bounty hunter, but she runs a casino, but also kind of seems like a madam for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's that kind of casino. I don't know. Did we see that in the previous episode? Did she have space hose running around? I can't remember.
I don't think we necessarily see it, but it was kind of implied.
Yeah, so she's got her fingers in a lot of
which is why, for those of you who know Mass Effect, that's why she feels like Arya Talok.
Oh, because that's what your character
because there's all of those things
hunter,
coming together into one person.
Pole runner, casino owner.
Yeah.
Asked for Pamela Adlon's help, but the Empire soon arrives at the casino. Big surprise. And then she makes a ruckus while her people escape in a very convenient turbo lift that they don't disable when they get done with it. I'm like, but yeah, because they go up and down, and they give the very obvious, like they push Devin and the kid into the lift and push the button, and then they stay behind. I'm like, okay, which one of them is going to die? Now they did subvert my expectations by not making this the resolution to the buddy cop moment, because they both live. So everybody's alive at the end of the episode.
Yep.
To my knowledge. And I think that's
surprising.
Well, exactly. So again, this is starting to kind of pick up a little bit in my eyes. So Lawson and Dennis Haysbert are staying behind, holding off the TKs, and they then Devin and Riley escape to the train platform, which, first Devin pushes the kid onto the train platform, but then she jumps later. Fart Gas Guy shows up. He's dueling with Devin. And this is where we get a moment that is absolute eye roll city, because Devin's on the ropes and Fart Gas Guy's got her down. He's like, where is Maul? And then he's conveniently standing above her on a stack saying, here I am. And I'm like, oh, and jumps down and has a fight with Fart Gas Guy, and Fart Gas Guy
he just cuts the coupling, and then they
and then they escape. And then so that was eye roll moment number 1, and eye roll moment number 2 is when Merrick contacts his master to confirm Maul's presence and that of the Jedi. Oh, gee, I wonder who he's talking to. Like it's like they need to hold it in suspense. There's one of 2 people he's talking to. Let's face it.
Yep.
It's not a third guy.
No.
Or okay, the third guy could be. Now I can think of who the third guy could be. All right, fine. But other than that, they're trying to create tension of something where there's like, okay, it's one of 3 guys, and it doesn't really matter to me which third guy it is. And you and I both know. Now, I don't think either one of us has watched the finale, but the art is out there now.
We've seen enough stuff floating around that we all know who it is.
And it's the most telegraphed. I hope there's something great in it, but it is the most telegraphed, boring thing that I can think of. That's the wrap up to this, but we'll get there. All right. Speaking of telegraphing, and they made it very obvious that Fart Gas and Maul were going to throw down at this episode. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. Trying to create some dramatic tension around it that really fell flat for me.
Yeah.
I liked it. So when they're still in the apartment, so this is in the first, 2 or 3 minutes, Riley, the kid, is showing Devin around his room, like, here's my stuff and whatever. And my mom has a job with the Empire. She lives in Coruscant, but I stayed because, I want to be with my team. She's like, oh, so you're like into sports or whatever? I'm like, oh, it's so charmingly. That I enjoy. I thought it was charmingly awkward.
That was kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when Fart Gas shows up and he's fighting the Jedi and they're escaping, that's pretty cool. That set piece, and they get up onto the roof, and we still have it's the Republic gunships. Really, they barely changed all. They look very similar. They just changed the paint job, I think.
Yep, they just took
because they're all gray. No, it's nighttime, but it looks like they're all gray. Which gray is the Imperial color. That pretty much
which all the Venators at the end of Revenge of the Sith were all gray. So that's just what the Empire does. Gray
is maybe it doesn't rust as
Battleship Gray. We're just done with looking interesting.
Battleship Gray. Yeah, we don't need to spice it up. So I love it in the fight. They also burned down Lawson's apartment. I was like, oh, thanks for stopping by, you guys. Appreciate it. Come by anytime.
Yeah, I need some Allstate.
Yeah. Oh, that's where. That's good. That's good. What did I write? I said looks like Lawson is on his way to becoming a rebel. Maybe he'll be Andor's pickleball partner someday. Those accents
Yeah,
are kind of close. I feel like they could become pals.
they could. Yeah,
If he lives, which is obviously pretty dubious.
it is up in the air right now.
Yeah, and there's still several years between when Andor happens and this happens, but yeah, yeah, I love that our gang overpowers, kills all the TKs, and steals the gunship. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And I think this episode is starting to show some promise. So I'm tilting it up above. What I was feeling about, the kind of some of the heavy-handed cliches. I think we're starting to run out. Lawson does a great move, and I know I talk about my love for G.I. Joe in the 1980s cartoon, the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. They always used to have a guy with a laser rifle basically be able to shoot down a fighter jet with the laser rifle, and he pulls this off too with his pistol, because he shoots through the window of the one behind, and he hits what a shot, hits the guy right in the face, which they don't show graphically, of course, but then he crashes into a
but in
building.
classic Star Wars fashion, there's a black mark on the helmet, and now they go down.
But I love it. I feel super bad because we get some asides with Two Boots, and he still doesn't get it. He's like, well, I can tell because everything's going good that my decision to call in the Empire was definitely a good thing. And I think Lawson will really warm up to the idea. And then the screen comes on behind him showing his wanted poster. And then Bha-lah-khe comes. Oh, we stumbled on such a it could be a reason to change. Fart gas and Bha-lah-khe. There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
There's the name of the episode. I will change that in a moment. But yeah. All right. You know what? I'll change it now while you start talking.
Yeah. So I did also like this episode where we're keeping the tension with the escaping and all of that. Like we're doing a really good job of having us worried about those characters and like, are they going to survive? And now we're throwing an Inquisitor at them. They're not prepared. And we have two civilians who can't use a lightsaber. They're going to die because, dudes with lightsabers are exceptionally dangerous. But it kind of goes back to the same thing that I was saying about the last episode, where we're tighter on the storytelling in part because Maul's not there. Because he only shows up in like the last 5 minutes of the episode on the train escape. So he shows up to help Devin fight Marek off, and then Marek gets left on the decoupled train. But outside of that, we don't really see Maul at all in this episode. And I find that a little strange for a TV show that is called Maul Shadow Lord.
Like the Book of Boba Fett?
Right. I mean, Book of Boba Fett was a little bit more focused on him, except for those couple episodes.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're right. And especially since you're bringing in him cold and like, I've got this underground, operation of people and blah, blah, blah. And, so it's not
a whole lot of him. Like at the beginning of the show, we got him like, oh, well, he's going around and we kind of know who he is. He's evil and he's mucking up the underworld over here and he's trying to take over. And then there's a point where it's like, well, I can offer protection. And then, oh shit, there's a start story. I guess I can't offer protection anymore. And so it's unclear, like I've been saying with every episode we're talking about Maul, it's like it's unclear to me what they're trying to do with Maul as a character in this show. Right. Something like it's unclear to me like what they're trying to do that's new that they haven't done with the character, or try to explain why he is the way that he is when we see him in Rebels. And I don't really see a whole lot of progression towards that at this point. Now that could change in the next couple episodes.
Right.
But as of now, I don't really see that. And it seems like what we're doing in this show primarily is showing another example of how the Empire takes things over between 3 and 4 and how they make things terrible. And showing reasons as to why people would want to rebel. And if that's the story you want to tell, that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I like the story with Lawson and Riley and Devin and Daki. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
But if we're going to say that what we want to tell is Maul's story and then spend most of our focus on the personal turmoil and the upheaval and the political upheaval on Janix, then that's kind of, I don't want to say a bait and switch because it's not exactly, but it's not doing service to the character who's supposed to be, who is who is allegedly the primary character of the show,
Right.
and who has a lot of things that you can explore and develop and do stuff with. And a little bit of spoilers, they do something in the next episode, but it's not super clear as to why.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my that gripe of mine just still hasn't gone away, because I still don't see what they're trying to do with Maul himself. Like, I like the stuff that they're doing with all the other characters. It's really well thought out. It's really well done, but it's not telling me things about Maul. And so I'm just confused as to what exactly we're trying to do.
Right.
So like I said, it's not that it's badly done. I'm just not sure where the focus is supposed to be.
Yeah. I kind of take under that same cue. And again, I keep talking about telegraphing, but the big telegraph with Maul showing up and he's like, I'm going to rescue you, but I feel like it's going to turn to Maul's going to help our people, but in the end, Devin will have to make a choice to save the others, and that choice will be to join him. And I'm like, is it bad that it's just sticking out like that? Like, it's so, it's just going to jump at you. It's just like, that's the only way it could land. Or I guess what I really want is for it to really subvert my expectations, would be something completely different.
Yeah.
Like in the end, she gets away, or in the end, she dies. I know you said there's a death of some kind in the finale or later on in the series, and we won't talk about that because we're trying to keep it compartmentalized. My hope is that, if someone has not watched it at all, maybe they're watching it with us, and that would be cool. Somebody out there, I hope, is doing that. So they're going to be similarly surprised by things that surprise us. So, all right, let's rate the block. So that we don't dig along too much. This was a significant rise for me. This is a 2-point rise, because I think I was at a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think you were around there.
And so I rated this a 7 out of 10. It was, to me, big thrill to finally see the imp show up. Yep. A lot of fun and exciting set pieces and fights and the lightsaber duels and the shooting stuff and drawing things in after Bad Batch and before Andor. But the telegraphing, the cliches, the lazy callbacks. I thought episode 6 was better than episode 5.
Yeah. And
so to wrap things up, I to quote Sean Connery, and I think this is from the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, or at least it was from the trailer, because it was the only thing in that movie that stood out to me, because it was not a film I enjoyed, where he says, I'm waiting to be impressed. I'm waiting to be impressed by the show, waiting for it to do something that really knocks my socks off. Yeah. So what about you?
I would probably put it around the same, 7.75, because it's, again, like I said, there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on. There's some really solid character writing for a bunch of the characters who are not Maul. But I just have to keep taking it down, because I want you to do something with Maul.
Yeah.
And while we have to build up, clearly we have to build up Devin's reason for falling to the dark side whenever that happens, because it's going to.
Yeah, exactly my point, and that's what I don't like. That's what I just kind of drives me nuts.
But I get that we have to do that, but at the same time, explore the character in himself instead of just in relation to whatever he's pissed off about with some other person or some other person's perception of him. So, yeah. That's going to be my gripe, and until something like that changes, that's just going to be there. So I know if you don't like that take, fine. That's just where I sit on it.
Until there's an ungripening. So, all right. Well, this is the first time in a long time that we have a second segment to our show. Usually we just we have the big discussion at the end, but we're in this weird slice where we are imminently going to have the release of Mandalorian and Grogu over Memorial Day weekend here in the States, May 22nd. I'm seeing it this upcoming Thursday, which is the 21st. Yeah. So I wanted folks who listen to the show who maybe, it's funny, some people who may not even know this movie is coming out, because it happens, or maybe you don't watch the Star Wars shows at all, which could be a problem for this if you don't know anything about it, but you've seen the relentless Baby Yoda, you're not seeing my air quotes in the audio, Baby Yoda merchandise that has proliferated the universe since 2019. But yes, there is a movie coming out, but The Mandalorian is spun off of a television show which ran on Disney Plus from 2019 to 2023 or 4. I'm trying to figure out when the last season aired.
Something like that, yeah.
It might be 24. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't look it up. Sorry. I'm kind of skimming off the top. So we wanted to do just a brief rundown of, I won't spoiler filled. So if you've never seen The Mandalorian, the show, and you really care about it, it's only 30 episodes of about 45 minutes each. Go watch it. And if not, I did provide some recaps, which I can probably put in the show notes as well. That might help you out immensely. But we're going to go through a couple of things. We're going to do a kind of a nutshell of how we felt about the Mandalorian series, of which I had mentioned there were 3 seasons. And we're going to go through what our expectations are of the film. We'll do it in the round robin fashion. Hopes, and really I just have a handful. So you do yours and I'll do mine or whatever it is. Yeah. Hopes, fears, wild plot predictions. I'm sure we have a few. And then in the spirit of, and I mentioned this earlier, in the spirit of our summer movie wager, which hopefully you're playing at home, what you think the opening weekend domestic box office will be in millions. So let's get it started. I will jump in with my nutshell vibe of The Mandalorian seasons 1 through 3. And I kept it real basic. Seasons 1 through 2. Pretty damn close to perfect. Episode 8 of season 2, where we get Luke Skywalker, de-aged, admittedly, coming in and saving the day. It's everything I've wanted to see in Star Wars since
Star Wars, yeah.
It was absolutely incredible, and I've watched that episode 8 dozen times because I love it so much. Season 3, maybe just don't. Really, just don't. Maybe you just don't need to see it at all. Maybe you just don't need to see it at all because it was miss after miss. Yeah. The conclusion of it, suspicious. I know it was kind of sus.
Yeah.
I said set blasters to ignore. But which you can't do because it's still part of the story. So you really can't ignore it.
There's some important stuff. It's just executed oddly.
Right. So my hope for you is go to YouTube, write Mandalorian season 3 recap video, watch that, and call it after you've watched seasons 1 and 2, and then call it good. Yeah. And then you will absolutely be ready. So, all right, Peter, in 60 seconds or less, how you felt about the Mandalorian series. Engage.
All right. So season 1, I really, really liked the character development, character writing was really good. We got people that we actually cared about. Kuil. I think Cara Dune was introduced in this season. Like she was an interesting character. Took a hot minute to get used to her, but then it was like, you know what? Yeah. Not so bad.
Yeah.
Grief Karga, IG-11, even though there's some tropiness about him.
True.
And then we got some really funny stuff with the Imperials, like Biker Scouts can't hit shit.
Right.
That was great.
One of whom was Jason Sudeikis, who I love. Ted Lasso in SNL.
Yeah. So it really brought like that Western feel. Like it was really consistent with what it was trying to do.
Yeah.
And the bounty hunter thing. And I really, really liked that. Solid writing, lots of like suspense. What's going on? Really cool. Season 2 kind of continued that. We get an introduction to like Bo-Katan, so we're bringing in some Clone Wars characters
in live action, which is awesome,
which is really neat. We get some other stuff like that. We get some New Republic things. We get some critters from the from back then that are also really cool.
Macquarie drawings. You get
the spiders that we only saw in Rebels.
Which you get Oliphant as
Cobb Vanth.
Cobb Vanth. Yep.
Cobb Vanth is great. Like
the Return of Boba Fett.
The Return of Boba Fett, which was one of my favorite episodes of that season.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Luke Skywalker bit in the end was even cooler. Right. But like
they were just absolutely firing on all the cylinders that you could hope for.
It was really, really good. And the really cool thing, just to stick on Boba Fett for a second, was like you brought him back. Temuera Morrison, happy that the guy got to play Boba Fett again. Really cool. But then like he just kicks ass. Like he just wipes out.
It was wicked.
It was like that wanted to see Boba Fett do Boba Fett things, and there he was doing it. And it was amazing.
I think that was that episode 6?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it was 6, and then we also had an appearance that season by comedian Bill Burr, who's an absolute favorite of mine, which spawned one of my favorite memes from it, which was an action figure of him called Space Boston Billy, because Bill is famously from Boston, and and some fucking stab woes. So. He brought Boston to space. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
And then,
Yeah, like I said, that episode 8 was absolutely flawless.
yeah, and then the final episode with bringing in the Dark Troopers from Dark Forces and all these like really cool callbacks to other things. It was masterfully done. And bringing in Luke Skywalker was just a cherry on top. And the fact that they kept that hidden for so long was amazing.
Right. And it's the same thing with, it was one of the videos, the recap videos that I included here, had to do with the fact that not only was that kept secret, so it shows that Filoni and Favreau can keep things under wraps. So who knows what we're going to see upcoming in this film? It could be a lot of big surprises. But he also kept the introduction of Grogu completely under wraps. Nobody knew. Nobody was prepared for the onslaught of the child.
And I mean, that was Grogu. That was like episode 1. So
it was the last 30 seconds,
but it was still like no one knew.
But people saw it and people lost their fucking minds. Let's face it. It was all over by then.
Yeah.
It was
and
crazy.
Season 3 was season 3. There's some interesting stuff in there. Like, I thought that Christopher Lloyd's cameo was hysterical. In
an episode that made no sense.
In an episode that made absolutely no sense at all.
Pointed out by one of the recap videos. Like you and I were talking about yesterday, Lizzo and Jack Black. Yeah. What?
The last like 5 minutes of that episode were the only important parts where Bo-Katan had to go and get the other Mandalorians to submit to her again, like go talk Axe Waves out of being a douche. So okay, that was the only important part of that episode. And that's kind of how that season went, was like there were bits and pieces that were important, but not a lot of it was. And then like you mentioned that the last bit was like kind of weird, and it was like when they had to go retake Mandalore, which was neat and needed to happen. We don't bring all of our friends who we've met and learned about through the whole show.
Right.
We don't.
So the inverse of the previous season's finale, where it was a big team up, and it was we didn't even mention Fennec Shan, who is Ming-Na Wen's character, who is great.
Who's a great character, yeah.
But it was in between seasons 2 and 3 that we had the Book of Boba Fett, which shoehorned in this very improbable Mandalorian story for an episode and a half. Had nothing to do with Boba Fett. It was just Mando 2.5, and it basically felt a lot like JJ coming back to undo what happened in The Last Jedi when he did The Rise of Skywalker, which is frankly one of, I would say, the most reviled of the Star Wars films by this point.
Yeah.
I would say. But it was a lot of undoing. So Mandalorian, just the bottom dropped out after season 2, and then they just decided to gum up the works because obviously they wanted to get Baby Yoda back out there front and center doing stuff and making him part of the story. Otherwise, what's going to happen?
It didn't work as well. And then the season finale, like we got like the Mandalorians who are still living on Mandalore team up with the Mandalorians coming from Bo-Katan, teaming up with the Mandalorians that were part of Din Djarin's group. And so we had 3 different clans coming together, but we didn't have like, hey, we made friends with the New Republic, we can get them to help. Hey, we made friends with a bunch of smugglers, we could get them to help. Hey, we made friends with Boba Fett, we could get Boba Fett to come and help.
Like, actually, if they would have done the ending of The Rise of Skywalker and made it work.
Yeah.
Instead
and also
of having it be like the Ewoks at the end of Return of the Jedi, like, okay, how do they do the big thing with the tree trunks that smash, and how do they have all these logs ready so they could trip a walker? It's like all the completely improbable bullshit.
And it's also just one of those things of like, if there's an Imperial base that's hidden there doing like secret like research and doing all sorts of crazy crap, it would have a lot more defenses, firstly, and secondly it would have like a fleet waiting to like jump in if they needed help. And so it felt really small potatoes in terms of like, if you're trying to make this a big deal, because like Gideon is talking to Captain Pelion, who is Thrawn's second in command in the books, and I was assuming later on in Disney continuity, like Pelion, the father of Hux,
the father of Hux, right?
Like, and then there's like
the
warlords,
chubby warlord guy we're going to see in the movie.
We're going to see in the movie, and like they had like 5 or 6 like Imperial warlords who are leaders of different factions, and they were all getting ready to like unite. And so
they were like, but just
Gideon's like, unite under me because I have this amazing technology and can do all this stuff. And Pelion's like, hey, we need to wait for Thrawn. That's what we're doing. And so, but we just
And
didn't
look
have
what
a whole
happened when
lot
they
of
didn't wait.
like
Yeah.
anything going on with there. And then when the attack and everything finally happened, it felt like we kind of went
It was kind of like the end of episode 1, where you see the beginning. There's all these Trade Federation ships, and at the
there's
end,
only
it's
one.
not even really explained why there's one, and then everything falls apart because of one shot by a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah,
that was an accident.
Yeah, and it
So
feels
it was
kind of
just like very like, "This is how we're going to ramp things up."
Yeah, it feels very plot conveniency, and I mean, there's still a lot of really cool stuff. We find like the mythosaurs are still alive, and like there's lots of cool things that happen in season 3, but the story is just not very cohesive.
Yeah,
I think that's the issue with it, as opposed to seasons 1 and 2, where the story was aside from like a couple things that were a little off the rails, because that always happens, but like for the most part, seasons 1 and 2 were very concise, very tight writing, had an arc that they were going for, and it was very focused on that story, whereas season 3 was just kind of like and shotgun. So
exactly correct. So all right, well, that wraps that up. So turning off the rear view scope, looking at the past, let's look at the present. What are we looking for from this movie? I'll go first. I just want to return to form. I want Star Wars to be something that dominates the multiplex again. I want people to look at Star Wars the way they did with the prequels. Let's face it, whether you like them or you don't, they were an unstoppable juggernaut.
Well, they took it. Or even like if we want a more recent example, like the Avengers movies before the current run, like all the Marvel movies until Infinity War.
I want everybody to be talking about, to go see it, to talk about it, and for this movie to have legs.
Yes.
To have it dominate through the summer, to be a top film. I mean, it's gonna face competition in a few weeks with Masters of the Universe, which I don't think is gonna be a big competitor. But after that, it'll be Toy Story 5, and then Supergirl, and then at the end of July, it'll be Spider-Man, which by then Mando is going to do what it will have done, because that's 2 months gone by, so it'll be out of the way. But I want people to be fired up, and I want people to look at and or look past the fact that they don't really know what this is about, and it needs to be something that is accessible to your average movie-going fan that just likes to go to the movies, that is maybe not watched any of the shows, but can simply tune in to say, hey, here's a guy, I've seen Baby Yoda around, he's a dude who's being hired to take out bad guys, and this is his ward, his kid, whatever it is, and you don't need to have all of this crazy homework done, which is the thing that has shot Marvel in the foot since Endgame. Like, that's why the Marvels, and I've said this a lot of times recently, that's why the Marvels, which came out in 2022, was such a massive failure, because it was all homework based. It was all it was 2 out of the 3 leads were TV show characters for shows that a lot of people didn't give a shit about. So, not having seen the shows, they didn't say, hey, I want to put in 20 hours of watching TV shows so that I can go see this movie. So I'm hoping not for that. I'm hoping the accessibility of this really opens up like a flower, and people can just swoop in and see it. And then on a minor note, super psyched to see him be flying around in a Razor Crest again. Obviously, it's not the same one because it got blown up. Love that ship. Super psyched.
It is a cool
him
ship.
Driving around in that stupid N1 Starfighter didn't really fit. There's no bathroom in it.
I mean, I love the N1, but it being a long haul ship doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's like basically, I'm going to travel around the galaxy in a Mini Cooper. It's just not going to happen.
Well, it's even worse than that. It's like driving in a drag car, like a Formula One.
Oh, for drag car. Yeah, but it's your only thing. Like you live out of that. Like, what are you going to do? Yeah, that's not, at least in the Razor Crest, you can take a break, and there's obviously a pisser or a refresher, as they call them in Star Wars, somewhere that you can go have a whiz. How about you? Big hopes.
I'm hoping that this one knocks it out of the park. I'm really hoping that we get some really good character arc stuff. And I don't care if it's Din Djarin or Bo-Katan or Grogu himself or somebody.
Do we know
else.
Bo's going to be in this? Is that
she's not in the trailers, but that could be something that we're holding back on. I that is a hope that I have, is that she's in it, because it would make sense. But again, it depends on what kind of story they're telling, because it's not really clear what the story is, which is fine. I'm okay with being surprised. But I hope that we have some good character development, and yeah, I think my big hope is just having a solid story that makes sense. Where we get some really cool Star Wars moments, and we get that classic Star Wars of, hey, let's show you some really awesome special effects in the middle of this because that's what Lucas liked to do.
Right.
But also just focus on the characters because that's something that Star Wars, when Star Wars does that, it works.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that I want. Broad strokes, that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
A few nitpicky things is I want to see the Empire being dangerous.
Yeah, big time.
Like the Remnant needs to actually be dangerous rather than like, oh, we can blow them away in an episode and we're good. So I want to see them actually like, oh, they actually destroyed some shit, or oh, they're actually like blowing up Republic bases or things like that. So like maybe put some of the actual like danger of the war, like the factions of war back in, because like in a lot of the stuff that we see, we don't see a whole lot of that. And then when we got to the sequels, it was like, well, who, like, is this actually a balanced like who's dangerous, what's going on, like you couldn't figure out, like was the First Order like a pity party, or are they like an unstoppable super weapon? And it just wasn't clear. And so like if we can make like that feel more grounded again so that there's actually menace from our villains, I hope they're able to pull that off. So
yeah, for sure. Fears. A lot of this goes back to what I was talking about MAUL, is that I'm afraid of this with Star Trek, and I'm afraid of this with Star Wars. Hacky bullshit. Fan service callbacks that go too far, because we all enjoy a little one, but when it turns into what Oxford always used to refer to with the Avengers is the yucca minute meter, where they're telling jokes all the time and it's just bing, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I think someone else calls them like member berries, where it's like here's all these things, and it's like it's not.
Well, and again, people accuse Solo of being like, hey, here's the dice. Did you see that he had the dice? He grabbed the dice when he ran from this thing to that thing to hang them in the it's like, and then the dice were in the original movie, and then they made a big deal out of them, and it's like, just stop. So I wrote things that make me pass out in the theater because my eyes rolled back too far. Because I will. Yeah. I'll be like, yeah. I want the audience to be treated respectfully.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the fact that, you don't have to be like, hey, do you remember you're in a Star Wars? This is a Star Wars movie,
you don't
right?
Need to be spoon-fed the universe again.
Yeah. That's my biggest fear. But it's a double-edged sword, because while that might be an annoyance to you and me, that might be something that helps grow the accessibility of something like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To make it be something that people can actually engage with. Yeah. So I don't know, man.
Yeah. I hear you.
I just don't absolutely have a solid rationale around that. What about you?
I'm a little worried that we're going to get a directionless story where we're not really sure where we're going, and that it kind of just picks up where season 3 was kind of a mess, and then just continues that. So that's kind of my big worry, is that we're gonna have a very fragmented story that doesn't know what it's trying to do, in part because like, it got changed from a season to a movie, and then we have elements of Ahsoka that were supposed to be there that now they're not, and so it's just how much of the story that has been stitched back together from all of the innumerable changes that's happened in the intervening years. Will it be a cohesive story? And so that's like my biggest worry, is that we're going to have a non-cohesive story that's just going to be, it's going to be Star Wars on the screen, and that's about as much as we can say. And I really, really don't want that to be the case. But that's my biggest worry. So
that's fair.
Like the Easter eggs and stuff that could be too much. Like, I may not be the biggest fan of that if that happens, but that's not my oh no.
Your biggest hang up, where it's clearly mine.
Yeah. My biggest oh no is if the story is just all over the place and doesn't work. So
right. All right. Crazy predictions. Thrawn, probably not, because it seems like that's really tied up in Ahsoka. But seeing the return of like Chris Hatton or Boba Fett would fit. Yeah. Having them have some kind of minor functionary. But my absolute wildest one, and I think somebody did an AI or a fake on this, is the thing that we always knew had to come eventually, the recastings of Han, Luke, and Leia. in some capacity. I think that would be wild. It would be crazy. And would it be fan servicey? Sure. Would it be too much? I think it would be enough.
Again, it depends on where the story's going. It could totally work.
Right. But it would
be
like
the New Republic, and if you're tying the New Republic in, who are some big figures in the New Republic who would be around if something's going shit?
Leia would be there. We know that Han kind of went his own way to go back to doing smuggler shit. But Luke, popping back, and like I said, recast him. I love Mark Hamill. He is my hero, but still, you got to move this ball forward. And we know obviously Carrie's not with us anymore. We know that Harrison Ford wouldn't touch Han Solo with the 10-foot pole. He's totally done with it. But doesn't mean the character has to be done. Think about other iconic characters in pop culture and then genre in particular. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man have been a myriad of different actors. They always will be. That's what will keep those characters alive. Indiana Jones will die with Harrison Ford. That's been, Marty McFly will, in that series will not ever live again because that's what Robert Zemeckis has decided. But if you think about it, keep it in the comic book space, right? Or even in the sci-fi space, like the entire TOS cast was recast in Star Trek, and there were 3 movies around that, for better or for worse. But they've been cast again to be on TV in Strange New Worlds, which is a current program, soon to be ex-current program in the Star Trek space. So Han, Luke, and Leia, that's my wildest prediction. But again, I put all of these predictions with the exception of maybe seeing Fett and Santo and then also Fennec. I would give those a fighting chance where the others are a complete. I'm not going to lie and say they're a complete fantasy. But I would be blown away.
Yeah. That's fair. I think my plot predictions are, one, we'll see Boba Fett back with Fennec. Okay. Because they're good at keeping some things under wraps. We haven't seen hide nor hair of them for a while. So I hope that we'll see them. But one of my predictions is that we're going to see a lot of the Mandalorians come together to like reform their ability to be a member of the Republic. And they actually joined the Republic at the end of the film.
Right.
Under Bo-Katan.
Crazy.
So that's like my wild, like, plot overview prediction, is that this is going to be the Mandalorians eventually coming together and joining the Republic by the end of the film.
Right. And then by the time we get to the sequel trilogy, nowhere to be found.
They're just gone.
There's more and more noises about, of course, that there's going to be a Rey movie, but some elements of the sequel trilogy might be retconned, or maybe we'll throw the whole thing out. I know there's always wild rumors.
Rumbles.
But again, you never believe anything until you see it either on the screen or with Star Wars. They do have the added bump versus Star Trek of having complete continuity in mass media that they put out there. So your books, your comics, and your TV and your films are a shared continuity, where in Star Trek, it's simply what's on screen.
Yep.
But again, they're not making Star Trek anymore currently, but it will come back. But that being said, there's no other Star Wars project that's being talked about, that's being made right now. They surprised us with animated stuff here and there. I think this Maul, the Shadow Lord we talked about, is getting a season 2 that has been announced.
I mean, based on what I'm seeing, it needs a season 2 to wrap up.
Yeah. So they've actually created some story threads. So all right, final bit. Opening weekend box office predictions. Of course, I follow these pretty closely because of having done this contest for years and years. So I'm interested in such things. This started at a certain level and it's kind of fallen a little bit to different levels. I'm going to put it in, and again, it's also opening over holiday weekend, which is why they stuck it here. And again, it's also the traditional Star Wars movie weekend from the past. I mean, now the sequel trilogy films came out over the holidays, as did Solo. No, Solo was a summer movie, but Rogue One was not. So it's been since the prequels that we've had a summer Star Wars film, and this is going to be a summer Star Wars film taking advantage of the 3-day weekend. I'm going to go with the conservative. I'm putting it on wax, just like I did. I didn't put an opening weekend. We don't do opening weekends when we talk the rollout like John and I did. But I'm going to go with between 85 and 90 million domestic. That's my number.
The opening weekend.
For the opening weekend. So you have the 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
or 4-day weekend really, because Thursday night previews, which is how we're seeing it. So, but that's off. That number is just usually rolled into Friday's numbers.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, all right, how about you?
Well, I'm terrible about knowing weekend box office numbers. I actually had to do a quick Google of like what's even a ballpark for these kinds of things.
Yeah, it's, you know what, you're learning as you go.
So, but like, because some movies only do like 30 to 40, some do a lot more. Star Wars has traditionally done pretty high, like 95 to 100, 120.
But keeping in mind that there hasn't been a Star Wars film in theater since 2019,
right? And so I'm thinking that if we
and COVID was between there too, so.
we have been seeing a decent amount of publicity, not the same level of push that I remember from like
they're at Burger
3.
King. I still need to go and get some of those premiums because I'm curious. And there's some like themed foods and stuff. I don't.
There's some stuff. There's some connections, but it doesn't feel like it's as like everywhere as like when the prequels were coming out. So, I'm going to probably say somewhere 85 to 90 because I think that we're going to have a big.
Okay.
I think we're going to have a lot of people who are just like, you know, Rise of Skywalker wasn't my favorite, but like, oh, look, Star Wars. And I can go see
and
Star
I've seen
Wars
the trailer, and there's
lots of explosions, and there's lots of blasters, and it's got all the things that I like, and it's got, oh, look, guy wearing Boba Fett helmet. I'm going to go see that. So I think we're going to get a lot of people to go see it. Repeat, I don't know. So like total box office, I don't know if we're going to have repeat or if it's going to fall off the cliff right at after the first weekend. But I think we're going to have a lot of people see it because a lot of people just want Star Wars to come back and do well.
Right. I agree.
Because we don't know a whole lot about what's going on with it. There's not a whole lot where people can just be like, no, it sucks and we're not going to see it. And so, you know.
Yeah. There's going to be review bombers or whatever.
We're not going to have that right away. Obviously, once it comes out and people see it, you're going to have everyone talking about it. And you might have it sucks for whatever reason. Pick your poison. But
choose your own adventure.
Yeah. But so we'll have that, but I don't know that it's necessarily gonna it's not going to fully kill the opening weekend numbers. It might kill what happens after that, depending on how people react.
Right.
But
they say in films a drop of no more than 35 to 40% is considered positive after the first weekend.
Yeah.
But if you see a movie that really tanks and like, oh, it had a drop of 60 or 70%, it's
gone. Like everyone saw it and then it was just like done the next day.
Everyone saw it and they told anyone who asked that sucked.
Yeah.
You know, that was, don't waste your time.
And I really don't want to have to walk out of a Star Wars movie like I did 7 years ago going like, oh man, that was so bad.
Yeah,
to the point where it's like, I could write a better film and I did write a better film.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to put it there just because I think that everyone's excited about a new Star Wars film for the first time in a while. And there's been a decent amount of positive hype about Filoni and Favreau as a team working together.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a lot of people going, but I don't know what that's going to look like in the long term, depending on a lot of things. So,
well, we will know because when we come back in our next episode, my hope is, and in negotiations right now, to use a overused Star Wars cliche word, to have a returning guest join Peter and I to talk about the film, to do a full spoiler cast when we return in 2 weeks. So look forward to that. If not, it'll just be us. And if you listen to this show, you either can tolerate us or you can't figure out how to unsubscribe. Yeah. And we appreciate it either way. But yeah, that's the show for us. Peter, where do people find you out there if they want to keep talking about Star Wars stuff?
If you want to find me around the interwebs, I am at Petrus Aquinas on most social platforms. I'm fairly silent, but if you poke at me, I might say something, especially if you're like, I want to talk about Thrawn. Then I will say things. But you can find me there. You can find me on ELH's Twitch, YouTube, and Discord, where we do Star Trek primarily, role-playing games, amongst other things. And you can find me on our Discord, of course, and then you can find me behind the scenes on Starship Excelsior.
Excellent. And I am the guy who takes care of the Secret Friends Unite social medias and my own. Secret Friends Unite is simply Secret Friends Unite, kind of no matter where you look. We don't really do Twix. We don't really do TikTok or X. I combine those words.
Twix,
we don't really do those two in either way, but you can also find me and Secret Friends Unite on all the other socials. I am TheCeeThree, the C3 on all of those. I also do at least once, maybe twice a week, my little kitchen chats where I'm talking about stuff that doesn't make it onto the main show in 3 minutes or less, stuff that I'm enjoying. But find us in all those places. And also, if you have some thoughts about what we've talked about and want to toss it back in our faces because you think that we're idiots, secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. Drop us a line or comment on any of the socials. And we'll definitely use your comments on the show if that is okay with you, and assuming they're not too terribly profane. So we look forward to coming back and talking about The Mandalorian and Grogu. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to tell you as always that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
May the force be with you.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.